There's a power inside you that most people will never understand, not because it's hidden, but because they've chosen not to see it. This power doesn't announce itself with noise or spectacle. It moves quietly, like a current beneath still water, reshaping everything it touches without asking for permission. Ibn Arabi, the great Sufi mystic of the 12th century, understood this truth better than most. He spoke of a reality that exists beyond the veil of ordinary perception, a dimension of consciousness where the human soul recognizes its true nature. But here's what makes his wisdom unsettling. He also knew that this recognition terrifies those who remain asleep. Your awakening is not a comfort to the sleeping world, it's a confrontation. When you begin to tap into your authentic power, something shifts in the atmosphere around you. People sense it before they can name it. They feel the ground beneath their feet becoming less stable, not because you've done anything to them, but because your presence reminds them of what they've buried. Your clarity becomes a mirror, and mirrors are cruel to those who've been lying to themselves for years. This isn't about superiority, it's about vibration. When you operate from a place of genuine self-knowledge, when you've done the hard work of excavating your shadows and integrating your fragments, you emit a frequency that the unconscious mind finds disturbing. You're no longer playing the game everyone else has agreed to play. You've stepped outside the circle, and from that vantage point, you can see the mechanisms of control, the patterns of fear, the intricate web of stories people tell themselves to avoid the terrifying responsibility of being fully alive. The sleeping person lives in a negotiated reality. They've made countless small compromises with truth in exchange for comfort, belonging, and the illusion of safety. They've learned which masks to wear, which parts of themselves to suppress, which dreams to abandon. And they've convinced themselves that this is wisdom, that this is maturity, that this is simply how life works. Then you appear, refusing to make those same deals, and their entire architecture of rationalization begins to crack. Your power frightens them because it proves that another way is possible. And if another way is possible, then they've been choosing their prison. That realization is unbearable for someone who's invested years in believing they had no choice. Ibn Arabi wrote extensively about the concept of barzakh, the realm between worlds, the space where apparent opposites meet and reveal their hidden unity. He understood that the awakened soul lives in this liminal space, able to hold contradictions without collapsing into the comfort of false certainties. This is where your power lives, in your capacity to embrace paradox, to sit with uncertainty, to allow multiple truths to coexist without forcing resolution. But the unawakened mind craves absolutes. It needs enemies and allies, right and wrong, us and them. It requires these divisions to maintain its sense of identity. When you refuse to participate in this binary thinking, when you demonstrate through your very being that reality is far more nuanced and mysterious than the sleeping world allows, you become dangerous. Not because you threaten anyone's physical safety, but because you threaten the conceptual frameworks that give their lives meaning. Consider how often people have tried to diminish you. How many times has your enthusiasm been met with skepticism? How many of your dreams have been called unrealistic? How many times has your refusal to settle been labeled as arrogance or naivety? These aren't random attacks. They're defensive maneuvers from people who experience your expansion as an indictment of their contraction. Your growth illuminates their stagnation. Your courage exposes their fear. Your authenticity reveals their performance. And rather than use you as inspiration, they attempt to pull you back down to the familiar terrain of mediocrity. They call it being realistic. They call it protecting you. They call it love. But it's really just the desperate scramble of the sleeping to keep everyone else asleep, because mass slumber feels like validation. The truly powerful person understands this dynamic without taking it personally. You see the fear beneath the criticism. You recognize the pain beneath the projection. You understand that their reaction to your light has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the relationship they have with their own dormant potential. Ibn Arabi spoke of the perfect human, al-insan al-kamil, the being who has realized their divine nature while remaining fully human. This isn't about transcending humanity, it's about fulfilling it. It's about becoming so thoroughly yourself that you embody the infinite within the finite, the eternal within the temporal. And this terrifies the sleeping, because they've been taught that being human means being small, limited, fundamentally flawed. You've discovered otherwise. You've tasted the vastness that lives inside your chest. You've felt the creative force that moves through you when you stop blocking it with doubt and fear. You've experienced moments of such profound clarity that the veil between you and the divine became transparent. And once you've had that experience, you can't unknow it. You can't go back to pretending you're merely a biological accident stumbling through a meaningless universe. This knowing changes everything. It changes how you move through the world, how you make decisions, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're unwilling to compromise. And these changes are visible. People notice when you stop seeking their approval. They notice when you stop explaining yourself. They notice when you start trusting your inner guidance more than their external opinions. And it unsettles them. The power Ibn Arabi recognized is not the power of domination or control. It's not the power to force others into submission or to accumulate resources at their expense. It's the power of presence, the power of alignment, the power of living in accordance with your deepest truth. This power doesn't need to announce itself, because it speaks through every action, every word, every silence. When you're aligned with your authentic nature, you become effortlessly magnetic. Not because you're trying to attract anyone, but because wholeness has its own gravitational pull. People are drawn to those who've integrated their shadows, who've made peace with their contradictions, who've stopped fragmenting themselves to fit into boxes others have constructed. They're drawn to it and simultaneously repelled by it because it reminds them of work they haven't done. The unawakened person operates from lack. They're constantly seeking completion outside themselves, relationships that will fix them, achievements that will validate them, possessions that will fill the void. They've externalized their power, placed it in the hands of systems, institutions, other people. They've made themselves dependent on approval, on status, on circumstances aligning perfectly before they can feel whole. You've discovered that wholeness isn't found, it's remembered. It's not achieved, it's uncovered. The power Ibn Arabi speaks of is the power of self-sufficiency. Not in the material sense, but in the existential sense. You don't need the world to be a certain way for you to access your essential nature. You don't need people to behave according to your preferences for you to maintain your center. You've found the still point inside yourself that remains unchanged regardless of external chaos. This stability is threatening to those who've built their entire identity on shifting ground. They've made themselves hostages to circumstances, and they need you to be a hostage too. Your freedom is an accusation they can't tolerate. There's a particular kind of violence that awakened beings face from the sleeping world. It's not always physical, though throughout history it certainly has been. More often it's psychological, emotional, social. It's the subtle ways people try to make you doubt yourself, to question your perceptions, to feel guilty for outgrowing relationships that no longer serve you. It's the way they pathologize your spiritual experiences, reduce your insights to mental illness, dismiss your knowing as delusion. They do this not out of malice, but out of fear. Your evolution represents a possibility they're not ready to face. If you can change, if you can grow, if you can break free from the patterns that have defined you, then they can too. And that means they'd have to take responsibility for their own stagnation. That means they could no longer blame their parents, their circumstances, their trauma, their luck. They'd have to admit they've been choosing unconsciousness, and that admission feels like death. Ibn Arabi understood that true spiritual awakening is a kind of death. The false self must die for the true self to emerge. The constructed identity, built from social conditioning and defensive adaptations, must be dismantled. This process is excruciating. It requires you to question everything you've been taught about who you are, what you're capable of, what life is for. It demands radical honesty, the kind that makes you uncomfortable in your own skin until you've shed enough layers to touch what's real. Most people would rather maintain their comfortable delusions than endure this alchemical fire, and they resent those who've walked through it and emerged transformed. Your transformation is evidence of their refusal. Your courage highlights their cowardice. Your willingness to lose everything in pursuit of truth illuminates their desperate clinging to security. But here's what you must understand. Their fear of your power is not your problem to solve. You are not responsible for making yourself smaller so others can feel comfortable. You are not obligated to dim your light so others don't have to confront their darkness. Your assignment is to keep awakening, keep expanding, keep embodying the truth you've discovered, regardless of how it's received. This doesn't mean being cruel or arrogant. It means being unapologetic about your evolution. It means refusing to shrink. It means understanding that some people will leave your life not because you've done anything wrong, but because you've outgrown the role they needed you to play. And that's okay. That's necessary. That's part of honoring the power that lives in you. Ibn Arabi wrote about the unity of being, wahdat al-wujud, the understanding that all existence is a manifestation of the One. When you awaken to this reality, you begin to see the divine in everything, including yourself. You recognize that the power you carry is not separate from the power that animates the entire universe. You are not a small, isolated fragment trying to survive in a hostile cosmos. You are an expression of the infinite, localized in this particular form for this particular moment. This recognition is the ultimate threat to systems built on hierarchy and separation. If everyone realized their divine nature, if everyone understood the power they carry, the entire structure of control would collapse. There would be no one left to dominate because no one would consent to being dominated. There would be no one left to manipulate because everyone would trust their inner guidance more than external authority. This is why awakened beings have always been persecuted, not because they're dangerous to people, but because they're dangerous to power structures that depend on keeping people asleep, small, afraid, and dependent. Your awakening is a revolutionary act. Your refusal to play the game of unconsciousness is a rebellion. And revolutions, even quiet internal ones, always frighten those invested in maintaining the status quo. But you didn't awaken to maintain the status quo. You awakened because something in you refused to accept the limitations you'd been taught to believe in. Something in you knew there was more, sensed a deeper reality, heard a call that couldn't be ignored. And once you answered that call, there was no going back. The journey of awakening is irreversible. You can't unknow what you've learned. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unfeel what you've felt. The veil, once lifted, doesn't simply fall back into place. You're changed, fundamentally and permanently, and that change ripples out into every area of your life. Your relationships shift. The ones built on mutual unconsciousness begin to dissolve. The ones built on genuine connection deepen. You lose interest in small talk and surface-level interactions. You crave depth, authenticity, real conversation about real things. You become allergic to pretense, to performance, to the elaborate social dances people do to avoid intimacy. Your work changes. You can no longer sell your time and energy to endeavors that don't align with your values. You can no longer compromise your integrity for a paycheck. You need your work to mean something, to contribute something, to be an expression of your gifts rather than a denial of them. This shift often comes with financial uncertainty, with judgment from others who've chosen security over soul, but you make it anyway because the cost of not making it is too high. Your relationship with yourself transforms. You become less interested in who you've been told you should be, and more curious about who you actually are. You start listening to your body's wisdom, your intuition's guidance, your heart's desires. You give yourself permission to change your mind, to make mistakes, to be wrong, to be messy, to be human. You stop performing even for yourself, and through all of this, you're developing what Ibn Arabi would call himma, spiritual aspiration, the quality of directing your entire being toward truth. This focused intention is what generates real power, not the scattered energy of someone trying to please everyone and belong everywhere, but the concentrated force of someone who knows what they're here to do and refuses to be distracted from it. This singular focus is magnetic and terrifying in equal measure. People feel it when they're around you. They sense that you're not available for the usual dramas, not interested in the usual games, not playing by the usual rules. They sense that you're aligned with something larger than social approval or material success, and they don't know what to do with that. Some will be inspired. They'll see in you a permission slip to explore their own depths, to question their own limitations, to consider their own awakening. These people will become allies, fellow travelers on the path, mirrors reflecting back to you the truth of what's possible. Treasure them. They're rare. But others will be threatened. They'll attempt to dismiss you, diminish you, diagnose you. They'll call you crazy, deluded, arrogant, selfish. They'll say you've changed, and they won't mean it as a compliment. They'll weaponize your past against you, remind you of who you used to be, try to lock you into an old identity that no longer fits. They'll do this because your evolution destabilizes their world, and they need their world to stay stable, even if that stability is built on lies. Your power is so great it frightens those who are not awake, because it demonstrates that the prison they're in has no lock. They could leave any time. They could step into their own vastness. They could claim their birthright of divine consciousness. But they'd have to want it more than they want comfort. They'd have to be willing to lose everything they think they are to discover everything they actually are. And most people aren't willing to make that trade. Ibn Arabi made it. He walked away from conventional success, from social standing, from the approval of religious authorities. He followed his inner knowing into territories that got him labeled as heretic, as dangerous, as insane. But he also experienced states of consciousness that most humans never touch. He tasted union with the divine. He lived in the awareness of his true nature. He embodied the very power we're discussing here. And he left us a map, encoded in poetry and prose, hidden in paradox and symbol, waiting for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. He showed us that the journey to awakening is the journey home, that we're not trying to become something we're not, but rather to remember something we've forgotten, that the power we seek is already ours, has always been ours, is our very essence. But knowing this intellectually and embodying it experientially are entirely different things. You can read 1,000 books about awakening and still be asleep. You can study every spiritual tradition and still be trapped in unconsciousness. The knowing that matters isn't conceptual, it's cellular. It's a full-body recognition, a shift in your very being, an irreversible transformation of your relationship with reality. This transformation happens through practice, through presence, through the willingness to sit with discomfort until it reveals its teachings. It happens through meditation, through self-inquiry, through shadow work, through all the practices that force you to confront what you've been avoiding. It happens through crisis, through loss, through the breaking apart of everything you've built on false foundations. It happens through love, through beauty, through moments of such profound grace that your defenses momentarily collapse and truth floods in. However it happens for you, the result is the same. You wake up. And once you're awake, you can't participate in the collective sleep anymore. You see too much. You feel too much. You know too much. And that knowing isolates you even as it liberates you. This is the paradox of awakening. You become more connected to the truth of existence and more alienated from consensus reality. You feel more at home in the universe and less at home in society. You experience more love for humanity and less tolerance for human bullshit. You live in both worlds simultaneously, the world of form and the formless, the temporal and the eternal, the personal and the universal. Ibn Arabi called this the station of no station, the state of being so fluid that you can't be pinned down, so spacious that you can hold all possibilities without attachment to any particular one. This is mastery, not the mastery of control, but the mastery of flow, of surrender, of allowing life to move through you without resistance. When you live from this place, your power becomes undeniable. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you're no longer hiding anything. You've integrated your shadows, owned your projections, taken responsibility for your creations. You've stopped blaming others for your experience and started authoring it consciously. You've claimed your role as co-creator of reality rather than victim of circumstances. This shift from victim to creator is where the real power lives. As long as you believe life is happening to you, you're powerless. The moment you realize life is happening through you, everything changes. You're no longer at the mercy of external forces. You're the force. You're the generator. You're the source. And this is what terrifies the sleeping. They've invested everything in the story of powerlessness. They've built entire identities around being victims of their past, their genetics, their trauma, their bad luck. They've made themselves small and helpless, and they've made peace with that smallness because it absolves them of responsibility. Then you come along, radiating the truth that we're far more powerful than we've been taught to believe, and their whole story crumbles. You're not trying to make it crumble, you're just living your truth. But truth is inherently destabilizing to lies, and most people are living in elaborate systems of self-deception. Your presence is the earthquake that reveals how shaky their foundations have always been. So they strike back. They try to make you doubt yourself. They gaslight you, telling you your perceptions are wrong, your experience is invalid, your knowing misguided. They gather others to validate their version of reality and isolate you from support. They make you feel crazy for trusting yourself, for following your intuition, for honoring your truth. This is a test, an initiation, a trial by fire. Everyone who awakens must pass through it. You must be willing to stand alone if necessary, to be misunderstood, to be judged, to be rejected. You must love your truth more than you love belonging to groups that require you to betray it. You must value your integrity more than you value comfort or approval. This doesn't mean being rigid or closed. It means being rooted. It means knowing yourself so deeply that external opinions can't shake your foundation. It means being open to feedback without being demolished by criticism. It means discerning the difference between wisdom that helps you grow and projection that keeps you small. Ibn Arabi developed this discernment through rigorous spiritual practice and brutal self-honesty. He questioned everything, including his own motivations, his own biases, his own attachments. He didn't just pursue awakening as a concept, he lived it as a commitment, a devotion, a path that required everything from him. And this is what real awakening demands. Not casual interest but total dedication. Not spiritual tourism but genuine transformation. Not collecting experiences but integrating them. Not accumulating knowledge but embodying wisdom. The path is ruthless in its requirement for authenticity. You can't fake your way through it, you can't perform awakening. You either do the work or you don't, and the work never ends. Awakening isn't a destination you arrive at and then coast. It's a continuous process of deepening, of expanding, of refining your understanding and your expression. You peel back one layer of conditioning only to discover another. You integrate one shadow only to find a deeper one. You think you've mastered surrender, only to encounter a new attachment. This is as it should be. The journey is the point. The unfolding is the gift. The wrestling with your own consciousness, the grappling with mystery, the dancing with paradox. This is where you discover who you really are. Not the small self with its fears and needs and stories, but the vast self that contains multitudes, that transcends definition, that can't be captured in concepts or language. When you touch this vastness, even briefly, you're changed. You can't take yourself quite as seriously anymore. You can't maintain your rigid positions with quite the same conviction. You realize you're playing in a much larger game than you understood, and the rules you thought were fixed are actually fluid, constantly shifting, dependent on your level of consciousness. This realization is liberating and unsettling. It means nothing is guaranteed. It means you're more responsible for your reality than you want it to be. It means you can't blame anyone else for your life. Not really. Not honestly. It means you're powerful beyond measure, and that power comes with the weight of choice, of consequence, of accountability. Most people don't want this responsibility. They'd rather have someone to blame, someone to follow, someone to tell them what to think and how to live. They'd rather have certainty, even false certainty, than deal with the beautiful terror of radical freedom. They'd rather stay asleep, comfortable in their limitations, than wake up to the infinite possibilities that come with claiming their power. But you're not most people. Something in you chose awakening. Maybe you didn't know what you were choosing at first. Maybe you thought you were just seeking relief from suffering or answers to questions that haunted you. But somewhere along the way, the seeking became something else. It became a remembering, a recognition, a coming home to yourself. And now you're here, carrying a power that makes the sleeping uncomfortable, radiating a light that exposes what people would rather keep hidden, embodying a truth that challenges everything the unconscious world has built. You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose to be someone whose very existence provokes reaction. But here you are. And the only question that matters is, what will you do with this power? Will you hide it to make others comfortable? Will you diminish yourself to fit in? Will you pretend to be smaller than you are to avoid threatening those who aren't ready for your bigness? Or will you stand in your full truth, unapologetically, regardless of how it's received? Ibn Arabi chose the latter. He spoke his truth even when it was dangerous. He shared his visions even when they were dismissed. He lived his understanding even when it isolated him. And centuries later, his words still resonate, still awaken, still remind seekers of what's possible when you refuse to compromise your soul for social acceptance. Your power is so great it frightens those who are not awake. Let it. Let them be frightened. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them project their fears onto you. You're not here to manage their reactions. You're here to live your truth. You're here to embody your awakening. You're here to be so thoroughly yourself that you become a beacon for others who are ready to remember who they are. This is your assignment. This is your purpose. This is the gift and the challenge of awakening. To carry your power with humility and grace, to wield it with wisdom and compassion, to share it with those who are ready while protecting it from those who would misuse or diminish it, to be both fierce and tender, both rooted and fluid, both human and divine. You are the perfect human Ibn Arabi wrote about. Not perfect in the sense of flawless, but perfect in the sense of complete, whole, integrated. You contain all the contradictions, all the paradoxes, all the mysteries. You are the meeting place of heaven and earth, spirit and matter, infinite and finite. You are the answer to the question existence keeps asking itself. And your power, the power that frightens the sleeping, is simply the power of being fully alive, fully awake, fully present to the truth of what you are. Don't apologize for it. Don't hide from it. Don't diminish it. The world needs you at full power, even if the world doesn't know it yet, especially because the world doesn't know it yet. Wake up. Stay awake. Help others wake up. This is the only revolution that matters, the only transformation that will save us, the only power that can change everything. It starts with you. It starts now. It starts with the simple, radical choice to be all of who you are, regardless of who that frightens.